Greetings, young physicist. This is Mr. Chai, and the purpose of this video is to teach you about Newton's second law of motion. Newton's second law of motion tells us two things. First, it tells us that the more force that is applied to an object, the more that object will accelerate. Secondly, it tells us that the more mass an object has, the less it will accelerate. That idea is called inertia. Inertia is simply resistance to acceleration. The more mass or inertia something has, the more difficult it is to get it to accelerate because it resists that acceleration. If you were to put these two statements into an equation, it would look like this. Acceleration equals force divided by mass. The nice thing about this equation is that the units are always the exact same. If you can remember these three units, you will always get these points on your test. The unit for acceleration will always be meters per second per second. The unit for force will always be newtons. And the unit for mass will always be kilograms. Remember those, and you're going to get a good chunk of your points on your test. Let's do an example about how to calculate acceleration. The problem reads, what is the acceleration of a shopping cart that has a mass of 40 kilograms if I push on it with a force of 35 newtons? It's always good to start by highlighting all the important information in the problem. First, it says the shopping cart has a mass of 40 kilograms. Secondly, it tells us that the force applied is 35 newtons. Let's start by writing out our given information. I've already highlighted it, so it's simple to simply write the mass is 40 kilograms and the force applied to the shopping cart is 35 newtons. The unknown in this problem is the acceleration. Our new equation that we're learning about is Newton's second law. It tells us acceleration equals force divided by mass. To set up the problem, I'm just going to plug in my known values. 35 newtons goes on top because that's the force. 40 kilograms goes on the bottom where mass is plugged in. Go ahead and pause the video right now and put this in your calculator. Find out what the acceleration is. If you put that value into your calculator, you should get the acceleration is 0.88 meters per second per second. Let's do a second example. This time we're going to calculate force. The question reads, how much force do I need to apply to a 1,000 kilogram car if I want to make it accelerate at a rate of 0.05 meters per second per second? Once again, let's highlight all the given information. It says that it is a 1,000 kilogram car and that it's accelerating at a rate of 0.05 meters per second per second. First piece of given information right here is that the mass is 1,000 kilograms. It doesn't say mass, but I know it's mass because of the word kilograms. And our acceleration rate is 0.05 meters per second per second. The unknown in this problem is the amount of force. It's asking how much force do I need to apply. We're going to stick with that same equation. Acceleration equals force divided by mass. So let's plug in our known values. On the left side of the equation, the acceleration is 0.05 meters per second per second. On the right side of the equation, I'm going to leave f as a variable since that is my unknown, and I'm going to plug in 1,000 kilograms for the mass. This time we have to do a little bit of algebra. If I want to get f by itself so that I know what it's equal to, if I want to get rid of the 1,000 kilograms, I have to do the opposite. Right now I'm dividing by 1,000 kilograms, so I'm going to multiply by 1,000 kilograms. If I'm going to multiply by 1,000 kilograms on the right side of the equation, I have to do the same thing on the left side of the equation. On the right side of the equation, that'll cancel out, and we'll have F equals. On the left side of the equation, we now know exactly what to type into our calculator. Go ahead and pause the video right now and type that in. Get yourself an answer. Once we simplify this down, we should figure out 1,000 times 0.05 is 50. And of course, our unit on force is newtons, so there's our answer. Let's do one last example. A student measures the gravitational force. Ooh, that sounds like it's weight, gravitational force. A student measures the gravitational force that is applied to a bowling ball and finds out that it weighs 54 newtons. She remembers from physics class that all falling objects accelerate at a rate of 9.8 meters per second per second. What is the mass of the ball? Let's highlight our important information. 54 newtons. Well, it says that it weighs 54 newtons, but I remember that weight is simply a measure of how much force that gravity is pulling on that object with. It does say gravitational force right above that. The other thing is that it says the acceleration rate is 9.8 meters per second per second. Let's start by writing out our given information. It says that 54 newtons is the amount of force that's applied, and the acceleration of the falling object, of all falling objects, is 9.8 meters per second per second. The unknown in this problem, it says what is the mass of the ball, so we're looking for the mass. We're going to use that same equation, acceleration equals force divided by mass. Let's start by plugging in our known values. A, the acceleration is 9.8, that goes on the left side of the equation. F, the force is 54 newtons, and M is my unknown. This is one of those more difficult two-step equations. My first step is to move the M to the other side. I don't like having an unknown in the denominator. If I want to get rid of the M, I'm dividing by M, so I have to do the opposite. I'm going to multiply that side by M, which means I have to also multiply the left side by M. Simplify that down. We're going to have 9.8 times M is equal to 54 newtons. And now this becomes a lot more similar to the previous problem, where all I have to do is get rid of that 9.8 to get M all by itself. Right now I'm multiplying by 9.8, so I'm going to divide by 9.8, which means I divide the other side by 9.8. Now we know exactly what to type into the calculator. Hit pause on the video, please, and do that calculation. If you took 54 divided by 9.8, you would find out that this simplifies down to M equals 5.51 kilograms. I'm hoping that this video helped you out when it comes to doing calculations for Newton's second law of motion. Please let me know if you have any questions. Thanks for your time.